Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And this is the second out of my 10 preview videos, and in this video I'll be previewing a side that made the finals of the previous two editions of the World Cup, and that is New Zealand. Looking at the squad, I think it's the best squad they could have picked considering their player pool. Many of the big guns are still present, and you've got injury clouds over two key players, those players being the captain, Kane Williamson, and Tim Southee. And on Kane Williamson, he batted after a long while against Pakistan and got a 54 in the recent warm-up game where he looked good. And we're hearing that he will miss their first game of their campaign against England, and I don't know how often he'll feature over the course of this competition. Therefore, in the next part of this video, I'll be discussing two 11s, one with Kane Williamson batting at number 3 and another one without him in the side. And I've left Tim Southee on the bench for now, considering I don't know when he will be back. But looking at the squad, it does seem a decent enough side. A year and a bit ago now, Trent Boult walked away from his central contract and has been playing T20 leagues around the world for the majority of the time. He returned for the England series and straight away picked up 2 early wickets, and off late he's been doing that quite a lot, especially in the first over and bowling maidens up front. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a few of those overs across the course of their campaign this time. And yeah, he's a fantastic bowler. We know how potent he is with the new ball, and so he will be a vital component of this side. You've got Lockie Ferguson, who can bowl in any phase of the innings, and yeah, I think him a lot. I think two frontline bowlers, and I'll discuss this in the next part of this video. I think two frontline bowlers along with Trent Boult, so including Trent Boult, will start in the 11, and that could be either Lockie Ferguson or a Matt Henry, who's had a very good year thus far on ODIs. And Anish Sodhi, who's also had a good year, and he took a 6-4 recently against Bangladesh. So you've got those bowlers along with the Mitchell Santner, and you think, is this attack apart from Trent Boult going to blow anyone away? No, it isn't, but it's a good enough attack. You've got a few all-rounders there, 5 all-rounders, and you've got Glenn Phillips, who can also bowl off spin and turn the ball quite a lot against Pakistan. And I think from the batting point of view, this side, yes, you've got players such as Devon Conway, who will be key players for them, but with Kane Williamson batting at 3 and without him batting at 3, the side looks quite different, and I'll be getting to that in the next part of this video. Regarding how I think their 11 should go, and this is the first out of the two 11s that I mentioned in the previous part of this video. I've got Devon Conway and Will Young to open the batting with Kane Williamson at number 3, Tom Latham at 4, Daryl Mitchell at 5, and Glenn Phillips at 6. I've got James Neesham at number 7, who will be the third seamer, Mitchell Santner at 8, Ish Sodhi at 9, Lockie Ferguson 10, and Trent Boult 11. And straight away, if Kane Williamson is fit to play and bat at number 3, I think it adds to what, or rather, it goes well with what I said in the previous video where I previewed Pakistan's campaign. And then you look at that top 4 and you think the key to batting in ODIs in this part of the world is setting the foundation for the others to follow. And with this top 4, they're all classy players. They all bat in with a measured approach, and more often than not, if they go well, you'd think that the foundation would be set for the others. And I think, especially the inclusion of Will Young, or with what he's done in this year, 14 innings, he's scored 550s, averaging 44. I think it's vital that he's done well, because before that, they tried out Finn Allen for a while. The consistency wasn't there. And like I said, when you're looking to set a foundation consistently in this part of the world, if you've got Finn Allen getting out often early on, then you've got a problem for the other 3 in the top 4 to do the bulk of the work. And even then, if a Kane Williamson isn't fit to play the majority of the games, you would have had a Finn Allen opening the batting. You don't know who your number 3 would be. And unfortunately for them, Tom Latham, with however good of a player he is, this year he's averaged 25 and struck at 76 in ODIs. And if you've got 3 uncertainties in the top 4, you've got way too much pressure on Devon Conway, and more often than not, Daryl Mitchell and Glenn Phillips will be batting earlier on, and that's not ideal if you want to. I'm not saying they're bad players, but without the top 4 setting the foundation, you don't want to get number 5 and number 6 in earlier on too much. And I think it's a case where Will Young doing well has given them an assured option, you think. Now, if Kane Williamson does play and with Will Young doing what he's done this year, and Devon Conway, who's doing well this year as well, then I think it provides that assurance with the top four. And the key for them is Tom Latham. Yes, he hasn't had a great year and this year, but we know how good of a player he is, and at number 4, I think he's crucial for them to help establish that foundation. A good player of pace and spin. And we've seen him touring India before doing well. I remember in 2017 when him and Ross Taylor engineered a chase where India scored around 280 to 300 or somewhere around there. And in that game, we know how good of a player of spin he is, and he swept Yuzvendra Chahal a lot, and that was a part of the reason why that partnership blossomed. He hasn't been in great form in this format this year, but you've got to back players who've got the experience and the skills, as well. So I'm backing this top 4 to succeed, and that is if Kane Williamson does play in the side. But I think the other 3, you've got to back them to do well. And this, what I'm going to say now, isn't about the 11 that I've suggested. And what I don't understand with what New Zealand have been doing is they've been batting Daryl Mitchell at 4 and batting Tom Latham at 5, which I don't get at all. Now, as I will say when I preview the Australia's campaign, and I'll be suggesting something that very few people may have suggested, looking at especially how Australia have been using their players. I think it doesn't make any sense for Alex Carey to be batting at number 7 in their lineup, and it makes even less sense for Tom Latham to be batting at 5. I think if you've got Tom Latham batting at 4, you've got the top 4 to set the foundation, and then you've got Daryl Mitchell, Glenn Phillips, James Neesham and Mitchell Santner as a power hitting combo. Who would you rather have in that in those 4? Tom Latham or Daryl Mitchell? I know who I would pick. So I think Tom Latham and Daryl Mitchell batting at the positions that I've got in this lineup is beneficial to both of them. I think especially since Tom Latham plays wrist spin much better than Daryl Mitchell. He can face the earlier overs of wrist spin and the foundation can be established. And I think Daryl Mitchell to be to play that aggressive role from number 5 onwards. And we've seen how well he's been doing in Test cricket. He does have temperament as well. I think him at 5 along with the other 3 to play that finishing role at the end, I think bodes well for this team. I think the bowling looks decent. You've got a Mitchell Santner who at this point in time is New Zealand's best white ball spinner. And you've got cases where even when he bowls on batting friendly tracks in T20s, he bowls in a way where he could go for maybe 30 runs in his 4 overs. And when there's some purchase for the spinners, with how orthodox of a spinner he is, he can get the ball to turn and cause problems for the opposition. He's a fantastic option. We know what he can do with the bat, and in 2023, he's batted 7 times in ODIs, averaged almost 28, striking at almost 100 and 1 half century in those 7 innings. So I've got him batting at 8 in this team simply because if you drop one of Glenn Phillips and James Neesham and bat Santner at 7, I think it would be slightly precarious, and the only way you could look to do that is if Tim Southee would be fit, and he isn't fit as of now. So batting Mitchell Santner at number 7 and playing 4 bowlers after that, I think it's quite precarious. So I've gone for James Neesham at number 7 and Mitchell Santner at 8. Ish Sodhi's been bowling well this year, 13 wickets in 10 innings and got a 6-for recently in Bangladesh. Is a combination of Ish Sodhi and Mitchell Santner going to blow teams away? I don't think it would do, but they are good enough. Trent Boult, we've seen how he has gone in T20 leagues around the world since he walked away from a central contract. He's always been good with a new ball, and in this year's IPL, bowled a couple of overs, first over maidens where he picked up a couple of wickets as well. And like I mentioned towards the start of the video, on his return to the international side, picked up 2 early wickets against England. So we know how good he is with a new ball, and he will have to be that good in this campaign. I'm sure he will be. Lockie Ferguson has had a bit of a middling year. He can give you 3 for 50 odd, or he can give you none for 70 odd. He's a bowler who can bowl in all 3 phases of the innings, but he has been going for runs a fair share as well. And if he does go for runs, and you want to look for another replacement in the squad, I think you've got a Matt Henry who has taken 14 wickets in 10 innings this year at an acquiring rate of just under 5, and he's been bowling very well. He's someone who maybe isn't as quick as Lockie Ferguson, but bowls in the low 140s and is also a hit the deck bowler and is especially proficient at bowling with a new ball. And you may think with the nature of how he bowls, you could also try him out maybe in the mid-lowers and at the depth. So I think even if Lockie Ferguson goes for runs, a bowling combination or two lead seamers of Matt Henry and Trent Boulton are two very good options. James Neesham is the third seamer in the side, and he's got a role to play with both bat and ball. And I think I'll get to him in a bit simply because, actually, no, I'll just talk about it now, actually. I think the version of James Neesham you see in ICC events is completely different to the version you see in bilaterals, where he doesn't make the squad half the time. There's a responsibility to the way he goes about his batting and his bowling in ICC events, and I think the reason why him at number 7 is a vital role in this side is because he's one of the three seamers. You'd think Lockie Ferguson or Matt Henry would be one of the main death bowlers alongside James Neesham, because Trent Boult, since the 2019 World Cup, hasn't been that great at the death. He could bowl a few overs at the death, but Neesham and Ferguson or Henry will have roles to play as well. And if you're looking at Glenn Phillips at number 6, in this format he's struggled to bat time. You've got a Mitchell Santner at 7, who yes averages 27, but I think let's see how he goes in terms of providing a finishing kick more often than not. He's a capable batsman. I think if you've got a case where you don't know what you're going to get from Glenn Phillips, who's a number 6 in the side and expected to finish games, I think you've got James Neesham, where there's quite a bit of pressure on him to help the side get the finishing kick to round things off, because you've got a Glenn Phillips and a Mitchell Santner who, on a consistent basis, you don't know what you'll get from him if Glenn Phillips doesn't score runs at 6. So that is something you have to consider. And he's got a role to play as a third teamer as well. And honestly, on Tim Southee, yes, he's been a vital part of this team, but really, does his inclusion in the team really make, how much better does it make this New Zealand side? I don't think it makes them that much better, simply because if you've got a case where you want to drop either Glenn Phillips or James Neesham, play one of those two at 6, maybe James Neesham at 6, and play Mitchell Santner at 7 and Tim Southee at 8, so then I think the batting assurance is reduced there. And I think in that case you've got 3 frontline seamers and 2 spinners, so the bowling attack is improved. But if you've got a case where you're retaining the composition that I've suggested and you're playing Tim Southee instead of Lockie Ferguson, for example, or Matt Henry, I think it takes away a bit of variety in this attack, because yes, Tim Southee and Trent Boult up front would be great to watch, but in the middle overs you've got Tim Southee, Trent Boult and James Neesham in ODIs in this part of the world. Is that the way to go, with those 3 seamers to bowl in the middle when you've not got anyone else? I don't think that is the way to go. So even if Tim Southee is fit and can return into the side, if you play him at number 8 with Santner at 7, I don't think it gives you much batting assurance. And if you play him instead of a Lockie Ferguson or a Matt Henry, then I think Matt Henry up front, I think there'll be a bit of venom if he bowls up front. He's been in very good form this year, and he's been proficient with the new ball in his career thus far. And you got a Trent Boult who does what he does. So I don't even think you need Tim Southee to have a very good duo bowling up front. And I think Matt Henry will provide something different to this attack. Hit the deck bowler, him or Lockie Ferguson to bowl in the middle phase and at the death. So even if Tim Southee is fit to play, I don't actually think he'd make this side much better. Now, in the case that Kane Williamson isn't able to make the side, then I've got Tom Latham to bat at 3 and Mark Chapman to bat at 4, who looks a good player. And I think in this case, it makes it even more vital that Tom Latham has a good tournament. We know how good of a player he is. But if he doesn't get the runs, also without a Kane Williamson being there, it puts more pressure on the openers and on Mark Chapman. And the only way someone like a Rachinda Ravindra you think could make it into the side as of now is if Mark Chapman doesn't have a great time of things, then he could make it into the side. Rachinda Ravindra scored a brilliant 97 against Pakistan, and if Tom Latham continues to go through a lean run throughout the course of this tournament, then you've got a case where, as a last resort, you make Mitchell Santner captain, give the gloves to Glenn Phillips, and then play Rachinda Ravindra instead of Tom Latham. But even then I don't think it would be a great look going through the tournament. So it's vital that Tom Latham gets the runs at number 3 in this case. And I think you got other players such as Glenn Phillips, where if he walks out after the 35th over, in the current guise that he has shown in his current guise in ODI cricket, then I think he can create an impact. But before that, he struggled to bat time in this format, and I think it's the key that the top 5 will have to take the innings deep, so that when he walks out to bat, when Glenn Phillips walks out to bat, it's in a position of strength where we've seen what he has done in T20 cricket. James Neesham, the player in ICC events, is a much better commodity than the player we've seen in bilateral series where he doesn't get picked with the squad half the time. He has a role to play. I'm sure he'll be up for the challenge. And you've got the other 4 bowlers in the 2 spinners and the 2 seamers as well. So overall, I think this side may struggle to qualify. They've got the elements to, if they get things right, if you've got the top 5 to set things up for the likes of Glenn Phillips, and if he bats in the last 15 overs and gets his side to a 300 score, they've got the bowling. If Trent Bolton, potentially if Matt Henry opens the bowling with him, it's a very difficult opening combination to face, and you've got 2 very good spinners there as well. So they've got the players where if they get things right on the day, they can win by quite some margin, especially when batting first. But I think the side has got a few things to answer. I think Kane Williamson being fit will help a lot. Kane Williamson being fit and batting well will help a lot. But Tom Latham is key. Glenn Phillips at 6, I think, is also key, and a James Neesham. So let's see how this side goes. I think they may struggle to qualify. They have the players to script some decent wins, but yeah, let's see how they go. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, please share it with your friends, remember, this is my opinion, what's yours?